Leaking roofs, run-down classrooms, even rotting buildings.
You can smell the mould, there's roof leaks everywhere, there's dampness in the walls, our floors are like waves in the ocean.
These are the conditions children with intellectual and physical disabilities face at Somerville Specialist School in Auckland.
We've got students that are very vulnerable with respiratory conditions.
They've been waiting for a rebuild for quite a while.
We're desperate, we're beyond crisis point. We've been promised a new school rebuild for more than 20 years. Successive governments have made this promise to us.
And just remember, this is the Ministry of Education that this government's told you have to save money. You have to cut back. 6.5%, please. You got to cut back. And now part of the ministry is going, oh, yeah. So again, we cannot and we will not hold this government accountable for the condition of these buildings. That sounds like it's been a 20-year lead up to now. But we can hold this government accountable for the decisions they're making today that are going to impact these schools actually getting it fixed this term. Now, I know people are going to go, well, why not last term? That's fair. Why not the term before? That's fair. Mm-hmm. If you keep doing this, then you'll just put it on to the next term and then the next term. But I'll keep coming back to that thing. The one difference is this government, Shuey, is giving tax cuts, money back to the landlords. So they're emptying the coffers and then not fixing things. That's the difference I see it, Shuey.
Yeah. No, this is like a special needs school. And we saw the state of it. Yeah, and Newlands, I know that area well. I could believe that. Yeah, I could well believe that they're at 150% capacity, and we know through multiple studies that classroom size heavily influences how much those kids are able to learn.
Yeah,
if they don't have funding for the building, do they have funding for the staff? How are the kids learning and that sort of thing? And then further down the track, when they're not up to the standard that's been set, I'm sure this won't be considered. Yeah, it's a failure of multiple governments. And there are some things like I get that parties can have ideological differences about stuff, but surely you can get your fucking heads together and go, hey, we are going to go on a spree of building new classroom infrastructure because we haven't done so in 50 years. And we need to do it. Are you on board? And getting that sort of those cross-party agreements that we love so much of like, yes, this is core infrastructure for the future of our country. Yes, roll it. We'll support it.
Yesterday, the government announced an inquiry into school rebuilds, citing the ballooning costs. Today, pointing the finger.
I make no apologies for saying to Chris Hipkins, how did you possibly leave us in this situation?
I just don't understand why National can't take responsibility for them wanting to fund tax cuts now at the expense of kids' classrooms.
So there you go, Chewy. Now, that's a story in and of itself. And if anything else you want to add to that, let's do it now. But I also want to show people the danger. Well, I'll put it this way. If you're not a fan of privatisation or private-public partnerships, if you're worried that a government may give, grants and money and funding to their rich mates to to build and to do infrastructure, then I've got some warnings for you. But before I do that, Cherry, is there anything else you want to touch on?
I've mentioned a couple of times this year that one of the things that people can do is actually reach out to these ministers and your own MPs. And maybe this is this project for this week is telling them to get a fucking move on building workable classrooms for kids because it's the future of the country. These guys can't bang on about educational achievement and all of that sort of thing and then give them literal black mold filled rickety shacks to learn in. Like, we take quite a bit of pride in the fact that we've got a decent education system. It's not just a failure of National. I'm sure it's a big project, and I wish that they'd stop blaming each other and just get on with it. Yeah. But maybe they need to hear from us. Maybe it's time to email Erica Stanford and say that these schools need support and they need the politicians and the departments to sort of put the bickering aside and just roll with it. I have doubts whether that's the end game is actually to build schools in the traditional format, but let's see. We'll carry on and see if that's what's on the tables for them.